Nerdcast assemble!
Stay dandy, baby. The devilish and demonic dealings of Anos Voldigoad continue in the second episode of the Misfit of Demon King Academy. The second episode of the series firmly establishes how ridiculously powerful Anos truly is. There's a scene in this episode where he quite literally grabs onto a castle with one hand and ends up tossing the thing like a friggin' baseball. It's not the most important thing that happens in this episode, but I wanted to bring it up because frankly, it's just plain badass. And so was this episode. I have a feeling that the Misfit of Demon King Academy is going to be a guilty pleasure type of anime. I mean, at the end of the day, it's anime junk food that just borders on being gourmet. And for some people who've watched the show, it just might be. The second episode of the series establishes the next main character of the series, who is none other than Sasha Necron, the sister of Misha, and she's basically the exact opposite in every way, with Misha being incredibly sweet and Sasha being incredibly sour. In fact, she seems to have a big problem with her sister overall, and an even bigger problem with Anos Voldigoad. But before we actually get to that, let's talk a little bit about the scene at the very beginning of the episode, which actually goes back in time where we get to see where Anos actually decided to sacrifice himself and went into this sort of slumber for 2,000 years before he was reincarnated. So apparently in the past there was this big war going on between the demons and the humans, and despite the fact that they were going to war with one another, there was this begrudging respect for one another. In particular, Anos, the Demon King, and the human hero who goes by the name of Canon. Anos still wants to sort of bring some sort of freedom to the world that all of these characters live in, depending on what realm they actually reside in, and that's when he makes the declaration that he's actually going to sacrifice himself, acting as sort of like a barrier or protection between all of these different groups. Of course, this is going to result in his death. He knows that eventually he is going to be resurrected, and he actually does this with the help of the hero Canon, who is this weird dude with a giant sword who simply just wants to kill the king and bring peace to the world. He has a lot of respect for humans, knowing that there's a lot of promise for them in the future, and he ends up basically just impaling Anos, which doesn't really seem to bother him all that much. And you can see at this moment that these characters have truly come together, and he mentions that even if he gets reincarnated, that maybe at some point in the future, they could be friends. Now, while this seems like a very noble deed, I have a feeling that there's something else going on here that they're not letting us in on yet, and I have a feeling that this is probably not going to end up well for Anos. I have a feeling that these events are going to lead to some more of, like, the tension later on in the series, and maybe even the potential arrival of some brand new villains. But if there are villains, I wouldn't want to be them, because they're going to have to be going up against Anos, who is incredibly powerful in terms of the things that he can actually do. We already learned about this in the first episode, how he's pretty much the one-punch man of the fantasy world. Unlike Saitama, of course, he doesn't have the same personality. He's a lot more, confident, and he's not sad over the fact that he's incredibly powerful. In fact, he actually seems to want to make this world a better place with its magical abilities, but before he does that, he's going to throw them through the school of hard knocks. And that's where we get the formal introduction of Sasha Necron. Now, as I said earlier, she is the sister of Misha, and she's completely different. She is a total bitch. She's basically the typical tsundere type of character, where she hates you at first, and then eventually she starts to warm up to you. She seems to have a big problem with her sister, whom she considers a soulless doll, and this, again, is just letting us know that there's still something not quite right about Misha. She's not like a typical human. She's not a demon either. She's some sort of construct which has a human soul inside of it, or at least that's the current implication, and this does not sit well with Sasha. She does not get along with her sister, and there seems to be a tremendous amount of tension, most of it coming from Sasha's side. That and the fact that she's pretty pissed off at Anos. Everyone in the entire class is a little disturbed by his actions. We also get to see that the class is going to be dividing up into different groups, with each one being led by a specific leader, and of course Anos is going to be his very own, and so is Sasha. What's interesting though is that all the other groups seem to have a lot of other members, and of course Anos only has Misha joining his team. It's when Sasha decides to get up in his face with her demonic eyes that she learns how insanely powerful he really is. She tries to sort of intimidate him with her demonic eyes, and he does the same thing back, which causes all of this destruction in the classroom, which is really funny, and it also intimidates her quite a bit. This leads her to creating some sort of competition with Anos, which is something that I'm sure she's going to end up hating in the future, where she decides to have sort of a duel with him. Her entire group going up against Anos and Misha, and they decide to do this like in the middle of this massive grand forest 1 week from this event, and essentially it's just sort of like a magical duel between these groups, and this mostly just amounts to Anos just showing off and kicking her ass entirely. The scene is really cool too because we actually get to see like how some of the magic is actually going to work in the show, how these characters have the ability to create these massive fortresses or castles from magic, essentially creating their own base from out of nowhere. And basically Sasha and her entire team put up this like huge surveillance system to try and figure out where Anos is going to come from. Instead of being stealthy and tactical, he basically just casually walks up to that castle, breaks through their magical barrier, and grabs onto the castle and literally just throws it with pretty much no problem whatsoever. He literally tosses it up into the air and casually catches it with his hand. Again, he's apparently physically strong, and when it comes to magic, he is second to none. And this is demonstrated even further with, after this castle literally being thrown across a massive forest, Sasha and their group use this magical ability which is known as the Geo-Graze, which basically means they're going to create a giant magical cannon that shoots a giant fireball that just obliterates everything. And it's a really great looking spectacle, and they fire it at Anos, who decides to fire back with his very own ability, which is known as Grega. And the reason that this is funny is because Grega is the lowest level fire spell in the series, and it manages to crash directly through this massive destructive fireball, not only destroying that and their base altogether, but basically making them look like a bunch of fools. Now, the whole bet here is that basically, if Anos lost, he was going to end up being the follower of Sasha, and vice versa. So now Sasha belongs to Anos. Now, of course, at first, Sasha absolutely hated Anos. She wanted nothing to do with him. She didn't want to be a part of his group. She absolutely hated the guy. But this moment was kind of humbling for her. Not only did she get knocked down a peg or two and realize that she's not as powerful as she thought she was, but she also starts to fall in love a little bit. You see, Anos really loves Sasha's eyes. He claims that they're the most beautiful demonic eyes that he's ever seen. Essentially, he's saying that he sees a lot of potential for her in the future. He's not necessarily in love with her, but of course Sasha ends up taking this the wrong way. This also has the double benefit of allowing her to sort of reconcile her differences with her sister, and you can see almost immediately that they finally start to get along with one another. And I have to admit, it's very sweet. Seeing the two sisters walk together holding hands as they're making their way to Anos' house for a big celebratory meal is honestly just one of the most heartwarming things that I have ever freaking seen. Also, it's great to see Anos and his parents yet again. They're just so damn funny, and their reaction to seeing Anos walk in with not just Misha and Sasha is great, as they feel that he's brought in another bride. Essentially, they feel that Anos is starting his very own harem, and in many ways, he kind of is. But that leads us to probably the scene that most people are going to be talking about, the very end of the episode where he walks Misha and Sasha home, and he allows them to go back inside. However, Sasha walks right back out, and she wants to thank Anos for not only helping her, get along with her sister yet again, but also she also wants to question, like, what would Anos do if he were trapped by fate? And he basically says that he would destroy it, and he would recreate anything on his own. Now, this scene is really important because it's now starting to show us that there's something going on with Sasha we don't know yet. She seems to be involved in something that she can't seem to get out of, and it has something to probably do with her family. She's being forced to either do something or something really bad is going to happen to her that she can't seem to stop, and she really wants the advice of this guy who's incredibly powerful and seems to make reality possible all the time. It then leads to what might be one of the most confusing scenes of the episode, where she wants Anos to get close to her, and I thought this was going to be sort of like a retread of what we saw in the previous episode with Misha sort of patting his head, but no, Sasha immediately goes in for the kill and actually ends up kissing him right there. Something that seems to confuse him a little bit, but also you can tell that this was more for Sasha and not for Anos. He doesn't seem to really have any particular feelings for this character, at least quite yet, but you can tell that she's quite smitten with him, but I have a feeling that there's something else going on with this kiss. There's just something not right about it. It doesn't feel natural. It just sort of comes out of nowhere, I have to say, and the fact that it happened so early on, and in the second episode of the series, There's something else going on here, and I can't put my finger on it, but still, it was a shocking scene nonetheless. So what's the rundown on this episode of The Misfit of Demon King Academy? I thought that this was another fun episode, and in many ways, absolutely dwarfed the last episode of the series. It manages to be funny, action-packed, and surprisingly insightful all at the same time, and this episode also did a good job of establishing a lot of the big rules of the series as well. A lot of these were sort of touched upon in the last episode, like the fact when these characters have a magical pact with one another, they call it a Zect. Essentially, it's like a magical seal that they create, and apparently it makes it so that if you make like a bet with someone or a deal, you have to follow through with it. I kind of wonder what's going to happen if someone actually tries to go against this, like if they're going to be physically hurt, or if magic is going to hurt them in some way, almost like some sort of restraint. It's kind of interesting. We also get to see that there's going to be various classes in the series. This is something that their teacher brings up here. There's going to be like these distinctive groups and abilities, and everybody's going to have like their very own thing to do. But ultimately, this episode comes down to introducing Sasha Necron, who again, I think is going to be a good character. She's very different from Misha in many ways, displaying a lot more personality and a little more pep, so to speak. So I think her being introduced to the group is going to add another great dynamic to the show. She's the type of character that at first you really hate, and that really is the intention with her character. And frankly, I couldn't stand her for the whole couple of minutes that they initially introduced her. She was just a total bitch and a half. It wasn't until the very end of the episode where she got some immediate characterization and changed a little bit that I started to warm up to her quite a bit. I have a feeling she's still going to have a lot of tsundere qualities throughout the rest of the series, but I can't wait to see where her journey is going to go, and it's got me more interested to see what's going on with Misha, who she truly is, how she was created, and what her deal is with their parents overall, because of course, they've been building them up just over the course of 2 episodes, and I'm already really interested to see what the deal is with them. I mean, of course, they're going to be important and probably very powerful, but if they have any sort of connection to Anos too, I think that's going to be really interesting. And Anos, what else is there to say? He's a great character, and he really displayed why he's so fun in this episode, whether it's his goofy jokes, his amazing declarations, him constantly one-ing up every single person in the show by showing that not only is my magic stronger, but the magic that you've been using is wrong this entire time, always is really great. He's the type of character that I think you're either going to love or hate, but I can't get enough of him. I think he's just really fun, and this episode also showed that the action in the show is going to get damned insane. I mean, he tossed around a castle like a baseball. That was awesome, and it looked really cool the entire time. So I loved this episode of The Misfit of Demon King Academy, and I honestly can't wait to see more. It's a show that I was kind of lukewarm about at the beginning of the season. I thought that it was just going to be kind of an okay show, but already of the shows that I'm watching, it might be like in my top 3 favorite right now. I'm truly enjoying it, and I cannot wait for the next episode of the series. And I don't know how long this season is going to go on for, but I hope we at least get at least a good 12 solid episodes of an arc, and hopefully more than that, because I'm really enjoying this one so far. I see a lot of promise for it, and like I said, it's easy to make fun of the show because there's just so many others like it, but give this one a chance. You might see something about it. There's some strange magic in this anime right here. So I'm going to give this episode a 5 out of 5. I had no complaints about the episode. I got pure entertainment value from it the entire time. If I did have any complaint, it would be superficial at best, and again, I just loved watching it. I got a lot of laughter, and I loved the action, so definitely check it out, guys. 5 out of 5 from me, but your thoughts may differ. I'd love to hear all of them in the comment section below. What did you think about the second episode of The Misfit of Demon King Academy? Did you like it as much as I did? What did you think about all the crazy things Anos did in this episode? The introduction of Sasha Necron. Do you like her character? Do you not like her character? What's the deal with her? What's the deal with Misha? What is she really? And what was that kiss all about? Let's discuss all of the things in this episode and the future of The Misfit of Demon King Academy. So there it is, my friends. Thank you for watching this review. Please subscribe to the channel for more videos just like this one. If you are already subscribed, make sure to hit that bell notification icon. It's going to ensure that you'll see all of my videos when they are released. If you did like this video, use your magical abilities to hit that like button. It helps out this video tremendously, and it makes it so a lot more people can actually see it. I also want to go ahead and thank my patrons yet again for everyone who donates through my Patreon. You guys are doing a great job of supporting this channel, and it's also giving me an excuse to review a lot of anime series that I've never seen before. Because remember, if you make a donation through my Patreon, I'll review an anime series of your choice. I just released my most recent one, which is The Classroom of the Elite, so make sure to check that out. I have a couple more which are going to be coming up over the course of the next month, so please stay tuned for that. So there it is, my friends. I'll see you all next time, and as always, stay down there, baby.